Hey everyone, Clayton Miller here with Makeover Homes, bringing you another awesome module, part of the Makeover University training course. Today we're going to be talking about FHA minimum standards. What are the FHA minimum standards? Why are they important? How do they work? And what kind of role do they play in our renovation projects? So for starters, let's talk a little bit about what an FHA loan really is. So oftentimes you'll hear, are you going to buy FHA or are you going to buy conventional? These are two different kinds of mortgages that someone can use in order to purchase a home or something along those lines. The FHA loan is a loan that's backed by the Federal Housing Administration. This was a government agency set up back during the Great Depression when people were a little bit down on their time, their credit wasn't so good, they didn't have much in savings, and it opened up the banks to allow a little bit more lenient lending. So the government created a government-backed or a government-insured type of loan that the banks could then go and sell to their clients. So that is what the FHA loan has become. A few of the pros on the FHA loan: you don't need as much money down in most cases in order to purchase your home. They typically accept a much lower credit score, and they will also allow a higher debt to income ratio. So this is how much money you're borrowing versus how much money you're bringing in. The cons to this are there's a mandatory MIP or mortgage insurance payment, so it's going to add a little bit of cost to your loan. These are a little bit less competitive in the housing market. So if you're going to be purchasing a house and you can go conventional as opposed to FHA, most sellers are going to be a little bit more into selling to someone who's got a conventional loan opposed to an FHA loan. The other problem, and why we're talking about it today, is when purchasing with an FHA loan, there are property standards that property has to at least hit in order for an FHA loan to work or to be used to purchase that property. So that's what we're going to go over today, what those FHA minimum standards are, why they're important, and how they affect the renovation that you're going to be putting together for your clients. So how does this affect the renovation itself? So if you want to know about all, and I mean all, it is several pages, 100 pages long. If you want to know all of the FHA minimum standards, you're more than welcome to click right here, and that'll send you to a PDF that talks to you and reads you through the entire list from FHA itself. But in today's module, we're just going to cover the basics and what we find most common when we're out there shopping for homes. And what you'll find more than likely is if you run into a situation where there is a safety concern, a security concern, or a soundness concern, those are going to be the things that trigger the FHA minimum standards. So if it's not safe, it's not secure, and it's not sound, FHA is going to put their hand up in the air and say, we need to go ahead and get this taken care of. So before we really get into it, why do you as the contractor really need to know what the FHA minimum standards are? So again, this only applies if you're using an FHA 203K, and in all of our leads, we will let you know up front, is this a conventional, an FHA, a USDA, a VA, or a cash job? So if you see FHA, that's when all of these rules are going to apply. So you need to know them because when you put your bid together, anything that wouldn't pass an FHA minimum standard will need to be included as part of your bid. The good news is the realtor who walks through the home, the inspector who checks out the house to make sure that it's safe, secure, and sound, and the HUD consultant that walks the project with the client are all going to have 3 good sets of eyes on the project, and one of those 3 or 2 of those 3 or a combination of them are going to let you know for the most part what all those minimum FHA standards are and where the red flags are. So hopefully in the scope of work that comes from the HUD consultant, you'll be privy to this needs to be done, this needs to be done, and this needs to be done in order to pass FHA. So the HUD consultant or the inspector will more than likely give you a list. But no one's perfect. So if you're walking through the house, you look at your scope, and you found that there's a step that's a little bit too high, neither the inspector caught it or the HUD consultant caught it, but you did. That's going to give you a leg up. That's going to allow the client to think, hey, this guy knows what he's talking about. He knows the FHA minimum standards, he knows the rules, and he knows how to get this job done. So if the inspector or the contractor missed something, it gives you an opportunity to stand out. It's also just good to know. So when you see something on the scope of work, you may think that maybe that's menial, maybe you don't think that's a huge deal, but in order to pass FHA, using the 203K loan that we're using, those things have to be done, and those things have to be on the bid. Okay, so now back to those 3 S's: safety, security, and soundness. Why are those important? Well, they're rules that are being given to us from FHA and from the bank. So why is it that they care so much about the house being in good shape? Well, there's 2 main reasons. One of them is obviously the client. We don't want the client to get hurt. We don't want them to get sick. We don't want the house to collapse on them. We don't want something bad to happen to that client. A hurt client is probably a client that can't work, and a client that can't work doesn't make money and can't pay back that mortgage. So it's one of the bank's ways to make sure that the investment that they're making on that client stays sound. The other reason it's important is if for some reason the client were to default on their loan, they want that house to be in good, marketable selling order. So in the event that they have to take back possession of that house, turn around and sell it, there's not going to be a bunch of work to get done before they do so. So those are the 2 big reasons: client safety, and we want the house to be in good shape if it needs to be sold again. One good place to start with this is just your local code enforcement. If it doesn't pass code, more than likely it's going to be a safety, security, or soundness concern of some kind. Again, the inspector, the realtor, the HUD consultant, and maybe the appraiser are all going to get eyes on this thing and are going to be able to help you guys and the client put together a good list of those minimums. It's just going to be your job to make sure that everything is on that bid, laid out, and we're going to get all of those tackled before the project is done.